Oh, amazing minds. Imagine seeing the world not just with your eyes, but with a sense of wonder, curiosity, and deep awareness. Most of us go through life quickly, barely noticing the details that make each moment unique. A leaf falling, a stranger's smile, the sound of the wind through the trees. These small things often pass by unnoticed. But what if you could truly notice them? What if you could awaken your mind to the hidden beauty and meaning that surrounds you every single day? That's the power of observation. It's more than just looking. It's seeing, feeling, and understanding the world in a way you never have before. When you strengthen this skill, life becomes richer, your mind sharper, and your heart more connected. Observation allows you to catch opportunities that others miss, understand people more deeply, and discover inspiration in the ordinary. In this video, we're going to explore how you can unlock this incredible ability, train your mind to notice what really matters, and start seeing your world with fresh eyes. By the end, you'll realize that life is full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and all it takes is a little shift in the way you pay attention. Get ready to open your senses, expand your awareness, and notice the world like never before. Lesson 1. The hidden beauty in everyday life. Life is moving so fast that many of us have forgotten how to slow down and actually see what is around us. We wake up, check our phones, get ready, go to work or school, and keep rushing until the day ends. But in this constant race, we miss out on something very valuable, the hidden beauty of everyday life. Have you ever noticed how the morning air feels different from the evening air? Or how the sound of birds in the early morning is different from the quietness of the night? These little details are always there, but we usually walk past them without a second thought. Observation is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly you see what was already there but unnoticed. Imagine walking in a park. You could simply walk from one end to the other and think it was just an ordinary park. Or you could look closer. You might notice the way a butterfly moves from flower to flower, the laughter of children playing, the rough texture of a tree bark under your hand, or the smell of freshly cut grass. Which version of the park would give you more joy, the rushed one or the observed one? Sometimes it is not only about noticing beauty, but also about noticing meaning. For example, a simple smile from a stranger might brighten your whole day. The sound of rain on your window might remind you of childhood memories. A cup of tea shared with a friend might teach you more about trust than 100 books. These are not big events, but they are the moments that give life depth. Artists, writers, and even scientists have always relied on sharp observation. A painter doesn't invent colors in the sky. He sees them more carefully than others. A writer doesn't create emotions from nowhere. She notices them in human faces and voices. Similarly, a scientist doesn't always need complicated machines. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from simply noticing what others ignored. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly looked at the sky? Not just for a second, but long enough to feel the vastness of it. When was the last time you listened carefully to someone's words, not just waiting to reply, but actually hearing the emotions behind them? If your answer is, I can't remember, then maybe it's time to slow down. The hidden beauty of everyday life is not actually hidden. It is right in front of you. All it requires is your attention. Once you train your mind to see these details, every day becomes richer. Life stops being a routine and starts feeling like a gift. And the more beauty you notice, the more grateful and alive you feel. Lesson 2, how observation changes your perspective. Observation is not just about looking at things. It is about changing the way you see life. Two people can stand in the same place, face the same situation, and yet have two completely different experiences. Why? Because of the way they observe. Perspective is shaped by observation. If you observe the world only on the surface, life will seem ordinary, sometimes even boring. But if you observe more deeply, you will begin to see meaning, lessons, and opportunities everywhere. Take a rainy day as an example. Many people see rain as a problem. It ruins their plans, makes them wet, slows down the day. But another person may see the same rain as refreshing, life-giving, and calming. They notice the smell of wet earth, the sound of raindrops tapping on the roof, and the way the city suddenly slows down. Same event, but two very different feelings. That is the power of perspective, and it all begins with how we observe. Observation also teaches us empathy. Imagine you are waiting in a long line at the airport. Most people will get frustrated, maybe even angry. But if you stop and observe, you may notice the nervous traveler who is flying for the first time, or the tired employee who has been on their feet for hours. Suddenly, the line doesn't just feel like wasted time, it becomes a chance to learn patience and compassion. Which version of that moment would you rather experience? Observation sharpens your learning in every area of life. Scientists throughout history made breakthroughs not only because of technology, but because of careful observation. They noticed patterns, reactions, and small details that others ignored. Similarly, in your personal life, if you observe carefully, you will see the small changes in your friend's behavior that show they need support, or the small habits in your own routine that stop you from reaching success. Ask yourself, do you rush through your conversations, or do you notice the tone of voice, the pauses, and the emotions behind the words? Do you go through your work quickly, or do you notice the small mistakes and opportunities to improve? Do you treat every day as just another day, or do you look for lessons in every situation? Observation changes perspective because it teaches you to look beyond the obvious. It takes you from surface-level living to deeper living. Once you begin to observe with awareness, you start to understand that every moment has two sides, the one you see quickly and the one you see deeply. And when you choose to see deeply, your world transforms. Life is no longer just a series of tasks. It becomes a journey filled with meaning, wisdom, and endless possibilities. Lesson 3. The power of mindful seeing. Seeing and observing are not the same thing. Most of us see thousands of things every single day, but we don't truly observe them. Mindful seeing means paying attention with intention. It is about looking at something not just with your eyes, but with your mind and heart. Think of it as the difference between hearing music in the background and actually listening to the notes, the lyrics, and the emotions behind the song. When you practice mindful seeing, the ordinary suddenly becomes extraordinary. For example, imagine sitting in a cafe. Without mindfulness, you might only notice the taste of your coffee and the sound of people talking. But with mindful observation, you notice much more. The rhythm of the barista's movements, the joy in a child's laughter, the way sunlight reflects through the window onto the floor. These details create a deeper experience of the moment, one that you would have missed if you were only half aware. Mindful seeing is also powerful because it slows you down. We live in a world of speed, messages, deadlines, social media, endless tasks. But when was the last time you gave yourself permission to pause and really look at something without distraction? The truth is, mindful seeing requires patience, and patience creates peace. Ask yourself, when you walk outside, do you actually notice the colors of the trees, the expressions on people's faces, or the shape of the clouds in the sky? Or do you rush through your surroundings without giving them a second thought? If you can start practicing mindful seeing, you will notice your stress reduce and your appreciation for life grow. Even leaders, creators, and problem solvers rely on mindful seeing. They train themselves to look at situations with full attention so they can notice what others miss. This doesn't just make them more creative, it makes them wiser. And the good news is, you don't have to be anyone special to practice this skill. Every one of us can train our eyes and mind to work together in a more mindful way. Mindful seeing is not about adding more to your life. It's about paying closer attention to what is already there. Once you begin, you realize how much beauty and meaning was waiting for you all along. Lesson 4. Noticing small details that matter. The smallest details often carry the biggest lessons. Think about a time when you felt truly cared for by someone. Was it always because of something huge they did for you? Or was it often something small, like remembering your name, asking how you were feeling, or offering a kind smile when you needed it most? Small details matter because they show attention, and attention shows respect. Observation sharpens our ability to notice these details in daily life. Imagine you're in a meeting or classroom. Most people listen only to the words being spoken, but someone who observes closely will notice body language, tone, and expressions. That person can often understand the emotions behind the words more than the words themselves. Isn't that powerful? Even in nature, the smallest details reveal the biggest wonders. A tiny seed holds the potential for a giant tree. The pattern on a butterfly's wings is a masterpiece that most people never take the time to really see. The details are there to remind us that greatness often hides in the little things. Ask yourself, do you pay attention to the way people react when you talk? Do you notice the expressions in their eyes, or do you only hear their words? Do you pay attention to your own habits, the way you begin your mornings, the small choices you make daily? These little things shape the bigger picture of your life. One real-life example is how great athletes or musicians perform. Their success doesn't come only from big moves. It comes from mastering the tiny details that others ignore. A runner's posture, a guitarist's finger placement, a chef's pinch of spice, small things that make a massive difference. Similarly, in your life, if you learn to notice and respect details, you will improve faster than you ever imagined. The truth is, most people overlook details because they seem too small to matter. But when you train yourself to observe them, you discover that details are what separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Small things are never small. They are the foundation of everything big. Lesson 5. Observing nature with fresh eyes. Nature is the greatest teacher, but many of us walk past it without really noticing. We live surrounded by trees, skies, rivers, birds, and countless natural wonders. Yet our busy schedules often keep us blind to their beauty. Observing nature with fresh eyes means breaking the habit of taking it for granted. It's about noticing what you usually overlook: the patterns of leaves, the sound of flowing water, the way the stars shine brighter on a clear night. Think of a sunrise. Most people know the sun rises every morning, but how many actually stop to watch it? The colors shift from dark blue to orange to gold, painting the sky with a masterpiece no artist could fully capture. In that moment, if you truly observe, you feel both small and deeply connected to something bigger. This is the magic of fresh observation. It gives you perspective and peace. Nature also shows us patience. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. A river doesn't carve a valley in a day. These processes take time, and by observing them, we learn patience in our own lives. Next time you feel rushed, ask yourself, can I slow down like nature? Can I trust the process? Have you ever walked through a park and noticed how no two leaves are the same? Or how birds communicate with their unique songs? These little wonders remind us that diversity and detail are everywhere. By practicing observation, you train yourself to see lessons in the natural world. Resilience in trees standing tall against storms, persistence in ants building their colonies, or harmony in the way ecosystems balance themselves. Spending even a few minutes every day observing nature can refresh your mind. It lowers stress, sparks creativity, and grounds you in the present moment. So the next time you step outside, put away your phone, lift your head, and truly look around. You'll realize nature has been speaking to you all along. You just needed to open your eyes to hear it. Lesson 6. Reading people through their actions. People don't always say what they feel, but their actions often reveal the truth. Observation gives you the power to understand others more deeply, not just by listening to their words, but by watching their behavior. This doesn't mean you should judge people. It means you should learn to read the signals that many ignore. For example, imagine talking to a friend who says, "I'm fine." The words sound normal, but if you notice their body language, avoiding eye contact, speaking in a low tone, or forcing a smile, you might realize they are not fine at all. This is the value of observation. It helps you see the unspoken emotions. Think about leaders or great communicators. They succeed not only because of what they say, but because they pay attention to people. They notice when someone is nervous, when someone is excited, or when someone feels left out. This ability to read others builds trust and connection. Wouldn't your relationships improve if you could notice these signals better? Ask yourself, do you only hear words in conversations, or do you pay attention to tone, pauses, and expressions? Do you notice when a coworker seems quieter than usual? Do you recognize when a family member needs comfort even if they don't ask for it? These small acts of observation can transform your connections with people. Even in professional life, this skill is powerful. A teacher who observes their students carefully can notice who is struggling before they fall behind. A manager who observes their team can understand what motivates each person. Observation of actions gives insight that words alone cannot provide. One strong example is in sports. A good coach doesn't just read the scoreboard. They observe their players, who looks tired, who seems confident, who is holding back. These small details help the coach guide the team effectively. Similarly, when you learn to read people's actions in your own life, you can respond with more kindness, patience, and wisdom. Observation is like having a second language, the language of behavior. When you learn it, you communicate better, connect deeper, and live with greater understanding. Lesson 7. How observation improves creativity. Creativity doesn't come out of thin air. It comes from the world around us. Every invention, every story, every piece of art begins with observation. When you observe carefully, you notice patterns, details, and connections that others miss. These observations become the seeds of creative ideas. Think about an architect designing a building. If the architect only focused on function, the building might stand tall but lack beauty. But an observant architect notices shapes in nature, lines in the horizon, or the balance of space in everyday life. These details inspire unique designs. Similarly, writers often build stories from small observations. The way someone speaks, the look in a stranger's eyes, or the atmosphere of a quiet street. By paying attention, they gather material to fuel their imagination. Ask yourself, how often do you pause and notice details deeply enough to let them inspire you? Do you only look at a problem, or do you try to see it from different angles? Sometimes creativity is not about finding something new, but about seeing something familiar in a new way. Observation also helps you connect ideas. A scientist might notice how patterns in the stars resemble mathematical equations. A musician might hear rhythms in daily life, the sound of footsteps, the beat of a train, or even the dripping of water, and turn them into music. These creative sparks come from being alert and observant. Real creativity is not limited to art. It shows up in problem solving, business, and even relationships. When you observe carefully, you start to see solutions where others only see obstacles. You begin to notice the small changes that could make a big difference. Remember this: every great creator in any field is first a great observer. If you want to expand your creativity, train yourself to look longer, listen deeper, and notice the hidden connections. Creativity is not magic. It's observation turned into expression. Lesson 8. Finding opportunities you usually miss. Opportunities rarely shout for attention. They whisper. Most people miss them because they are too busy rushing, complaining, or focusing only on what's obvious. Observation is what helps you see the hidden opportunities in daily life, the ones that can change your path if you pay attention. Think about a conversation. Someone might mention a new project, an idea, or even a problem they are facing. Most people nod and move on, but an observant person listens carefully and sees an opportunity, maybe to collaborate, to learn, or to help. That one small observation can open doors others never notice. Ask yourself, how many chances might you have missed simply because you weren't paying enough attention? Have you ever walked away from a situation and later thought, if only I had noticed that detail? This happens to everyone, but the more observant you become, the fewer opportunities slip away. Even in nature, observation shows us opportunities. A farmer notices changes in weather and prepares crops accordingly. A traveler who observes a quiet street might discover a hidden cafe no guidebook ever mentioned. These small observations enrich life in ways that others overlook. In the workplace, observation can make you stand out. Suppose your company is facing a challenge. While everyone else complains, you observe carefully and notice a small pattern in the way things are being done. That detail could lead to a solution, making you valuable in the eyes of others. One powerful thing to remember is that opportunities don't always come in big packages. Sometimes they are hidden in small conversations, tiny details, or daily routines. The world is full of doors, but only those who notice the keys can unlock them. So the next time you enter a room, walk down a street, or listen to someone speak, ask yourself, what opportunities are hidden here that others might not see? That question alone can sharpen your mind and guide you towards success. Lesson 9. How observation enhances memory. Observation is like a hidden superpower that most people don't fully use. When you carefully notice details around you, your brain captures information more deeply, making it easier to recall later. Many times, memory problems are not about forgetting, but about not paying enough attention in the first place. If you walk into a room and later cannot remember what was inside, it often means you didn't observe with focus. The art of observation is about slowing down, noticing patterns, colors, sounds, and even emotions linked to experiences. When you do this, your brain encodes information into stronger memory pathways. For example, imagine walking to work. If you notice the red door on the corner shop, the sound of birds near the park, and the smell of fresh coffee from a cafe, you create multiple connections in your brain. Later, if someone asks about your route, these details act like hooks, pulling the memory back more vividly. Observation also enhances memory because it forces your mind to be present. Most of us move through life on autopilot, thinking about tomorrow's tasks while performing today's actions. This reduces the quality of what our brain stores. On the other hand, mindful observation works like sharpening the focus of a camera. It captures the small things that others might overlook, making memory richer and more detailed. That's why detectives, artists, and even great teachers often have powerful memories, because they train themselves to truly observe. They don't just see, they notice. There is a big difference between looking and observing. Looking is passive, but observing is active. A useful way to practice observation is by playing small memory games with yourself. For example, when you enter a new room, spend 30 seconds noticing everything. The color of the curtains, the number of chairs, the objects on the table. After leaving, try recalling as many details as possible. You will be surprised how much sharper your memory becomes with practice. Another exercise is to observe people around you. Notice someone's hairstyle, the color of their shirt, or the way they carry themselves. Later, test yourself by recalling those details. These activities strengthen both short-term and long-term memory. Observation also connects emotions with memory, which makes recall easier. Think about the last time you attended a special event. You may remember not only what people wore, but also the mood of the moment. The laughter, the excitement, the warmth. That emotional observation locks memory deeper. In fact, scientists have found that memories attached to emotions last longer because the brain treats them as more important. By observing both facts and feelings, you give your brain multiple ways to bring back information later. So the next time you want to remember something, don't just glance. Observe. Pay attention to the little details. Attach emotions and give your mind time to process. Over weeks and months, this habit will make your memory sharper and more reliable. Observation doesn't just improve memory, it also helps you become more aware of life itself, making experiences richer and more meaningful. Lesson 10. Practice mindful living. Life often feels like a race, doesn't it? We are constantly moving, constantly chasing, and constantly worrying about what comes next. But in all this running, we forget to notice the present moment. That's where mindful living comes in. Mindful living simply means paying attention to what is happening right now without being carried away by the past or the future. Imagine sitting down to drink a cup of tea. Instead of scrolling on your phone or thinking about tomorrow's tasks, you actually taste the tea, feel the warmth of the cup in your hands, and breathe deeply as you sip. That small shift in awareness is what mindfulness looks like in daily life. Many people confuse mindfulness with doing meditation for hours, but that's not true. While meditation is one way to practice it, mindful living is more about being aware of your thoughts, emotions, and surroundings. For example, when you eat, notice the texture, the flavor, and how your body feels as you chew. When you walk outside, pay attention to the sound of birds, the feeling of the ground beneath your feet, or the rhythm of your breathing. These little things bring you back to the present moment. Let's be honest, we live in a distracted world. Phones buzz, emails pile up, and social media calls for attention. It's so easy to get lost in the noise. But practicing mindfulness is like taking control of the steering wheel of your mind. Instead of letting your thoughts drive you everywhere, you decide where to go. Doesn't it sound peaceful to live like that? Think of a moment when you were fully present, maybe laughing with friends, watching a beautiful sunset, or listening to your favorite song. In those moments, you weren't worried about yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's challenges. You were simply there, enjoying life as it happened. Mindfulness allows you to experience that more often. It reduces stress, improves focus, and even helps you build better relationships because you're truly listening and connecting instead of just reacting. Here's a little challenge for you. Next time you eat a meal, try not to look at your phone or TV. Just focus on the food, the taste, and how it makes you feel. You'll notice that food tastes richer and that you actually feel more satisfied. Or when you're talking to someone, put your phone away and look them in the eyes. Listen to what they're saying without planning your reply. Small practices like these bring big changes. Some people say, "But I don't have time to be mindful." The truth is, mindfulness doesn't require extra time. You don't need to clear an hour from your schedule. You can practice it while brushing your teeth, walking, eating, or even washing dishes. It's about bringing awareness to what you are already doing. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Slowly, you'll see that life feels less overwhelming. Problems won't disappear, but you'll handle them with a calmer mind. Mindful living is not about escaping life. It's about experiencing it fully, moment by moment. Lesson 11. Observation building relationships. When we think about observation, most of us link it with work, studies, or problem solving. But observation has a very powerful role in building strong relationships as well. A lot of misunderstandings happen between people, not because they don't love or care for each other, but because they don't observe carefully. Relationships require attention. They need us to notice the little things, the gestures, the moods, and even the silence. Someone may not always express what they feel in words, but their eyes, tone, and actions often reveal everything. A good observer picks up on these cues and responds with empathy. For example, think about a friend who is usually very talkative but suddenly becomes quiet. If you are an observer, you will not just dismiss it as a random change. You'll ask yourself, why is he or she quiet today? Is something wrong? That small act of noticing could be the first step towards supporting someone in a difficult time. Sometimes being there for others doesn't mean offering big solutions. It means observing their unspoken needs and showing understanding. Observation also makes relationships more meaningful. When you notice what someone likes, what makes them happy, or even what annoys them, you can adjust your behavior in a way that strengthens your bond. For instance, if you notice that your colleague loves coffee in the morning, bringing them a cup someday without being asked will leave a lasting impression. These little gestures are built on nothing more than sharp observation. On the other hand, lack of observation can create distance. Imagine someone telling you the same story twice because you didn't pay attention the first time. Or worse, imagine missing out on your partner's efforts because you didn't observe the care they were showing in subtle ways. People don't always say, "Notice me." But deep inside, every human being wants to be seen, understood, and appreciated. Observation gives you the power to provide that sense of acknowledgement. Ask yourself, do you really observe the people around you? Do you notice the change in their tone, their smile, or the way they behave when something is bothering them? The truth is, better observation can turn acquaintances into friends and friends into family. Relationships grow deeper when people feel seen. Observation is like a silent language that communicates, "I care enough to pay attention." Lesson 12. Observation and learning from mistakes. Mistakes are a part of life, but how we deal with them makes all the difference. Some people repeat the same mistakes over and over because they fail to observe what went wrong the first time. Observation is not just about noticing the world around us. It is also about noticing our own actions, our choices, and their outcomes. It is the skill that turns mistakes into stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. For example, imagine a person trying to cook a new dish for the first time. If they burn the food, they could either get frustrated or they could observe carefully. Did I leave the heat too high? Did I add the ingredients too late? This observation turns failure into feedback. Without this reflection, the mistake might be repeated endlessly, leaving the person stuck in the same loop. Great learners are not those who never fail, but those who observe their failures closely and extract lessons from them. In sports, for instance, athletes watch recordings of their games, not just to enjoy their wins, but to carefully observe their mistakes. They notice their body movements, timing, and techniques. These observations guide them to improve and perform better in the next match. The same applies to life. If you failed at managing your time, observe your routine. Where did you waste hours? What distractions took over? And how could you have handled it differently? If you lost an opportunity, instead of blaming luck, observe your preparation level. Did you research enough, practice enough, or give your best effort? Honest observation of mistakes brings clarity and prevents you from falling into the same trap again. Observation also helps in learning from other people's mistakes. You don't need to experience every failure personally. By observing the struggles of others, you can avoid unnecessary pain. For example, if you observe how someone wasted money on careless spending and faced hardship later, that lesson can influence your own financial habits. Life offers endless lessons, but only an observant mind picks them up. Here's a simple but powerful question. Do you observe your failures, or do you rush past them hoping they disappear? Mistakes are only wasted when you ignore them. But when you observe them with patience and honesty, they become teachers. Each mistake holds valuable information that can lead to growth, provided we take the time to notice. In short, observation transforms mistakes into wisdom. It teaches us resilience, adaptability, and humility. When you learn to observe your missteps without fear or denial, you turn failure into one of the most powerful tools for personal success. Lesson 13. Learn from your failures. Failure often feels like the end of the road, but in reality, it can be the beginning of something greater. Every mistake you make is like a teacher that shows you where you went wrong and how you can do better. Think about it this way. If you never fail, you will never know your weak spots. Successful people aren't the ones who never fall. They are the ones who know how to rise again, stronger each time. For example, when an athlete loses a match, they often go back, watch the recording, study their performance, and then train harder to fix those weak areas. That loss becomes their lesson. So instead of being afraid of failure, you should welcome it as part of your journey. Ask yourself, what did this situation teach me? Maybe you learned that you need to prepare better, manage your time differently, or approach people with more kindness. Each failure is a mirror showing you what needs to change. Think of failure as a stepping stone rather than a barrier. If you treat it that way, every mistake becomes a push toward your dreams instead of pulling you away from them. Here's something to reflect on. What was your biggest mistake in life so far, and what lesson did it carry for you? If you can answer that honestly, you're already on your way to growth. Remember, failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of success. Lesson 14. Build emotional resilience. Life doesn't always go the way we want. Sometimes things fall apart, people disappoint us, or plans don't work out. In those moments, it's easy to feel broken. But here's the truth. What really matters is not what happens to us, but how we respond to it. This ability to bounce back, to stay strong in difficult times, is called emotional resilience. Think about a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind is strong, the rain is heavy, yet the tree bends but doesn't break. That's resilience. Similarly, in life, challenges will come, whether it's losing a job, facing rejection, or dealing with personal struggles. Resilience doesn't mean you don't feel the pain or sadness. It means you learn how to stand tall again after the storm passes. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to handle tough times better than others? The secret is not that they have easier lives, but that they build inner strength over time. They train their minds to see challenges as lessons instead of permanent failures. For example, a person who loses a job might cry, feel upset, but then start looking for new opportunities with determination. That mindset is resilience in action. Building resilience starts with accepting that setbacks are a part of life. Nobody has a perfect journey. The question to ask yourself is, what can I learn from this situation? Instead of asking, why me? Shift the focus to, what now? This small change in perspective can give you the courage to keep moving. One of the best ways to grow resilience is to practice gratitude even in hard times. When life feels heavy, try to notice the small things that are still good. A supportive friend, a healthy body, or even just the fact that you woke up to see another day. Gratitude reminds you that even in darkness, there's still light. Another powerful tool is self-care. Resilience doesn't mean pushing yourself until you break. It means knowing when to rest, recharge, and take care of your mental and physical health. Exercise, sleep, and healthy food make your body stronger, which in turn helps your mind handle stress better. Here's something to reflect on. Can you remember a time in your past when you faced something difficult but came out stronger? Maybe you didn't notice it then, but looking back, you'll realize that experience made you more capable today. That's resilience shaping your life story. Surrounding yourself with positive and supportive people also helps. We all need a shoulder to lean on sometimes. Sharing your struggles with someone you trust doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. In the end, emotional resilience is like a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. Every time you face a challenge and rise again, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought. And with each storm you survive, You grow not just tougher, but wiser and more compassionate. Lesson 15. The power of daily reflection. Every day, we experience many things, some exciting, some challenging, and some we barely notice. Daily reflection is the habit of looking back at your day and thinking about what went well, what didn't, and what you learned. It's a simple but powerful way to grow and improve. Reflection helps you notice patterns in your actions, recognize mistakes, and strengthen good habits. For example, if you had a disagreement with a friend, reflecting on it can help you understand your role in the situation and find a better way to respond next time. Or if you struggle with time management, thinking about your day can show where you wasted time and how to plan better tomorrow. Reflection also includes gratitude. Noticing even small positive moments, a kind word, a good meal, or finishing a task, can make you happier and more peaceful. You can try writing down 3 things you learned and 3 things you are thankful for each day. Even successful people practice reflection. Athletes review their games, leaders review their decisions, and learners review their mistakes. You don't need to be a professional to benefit. Just spend a few minutes each night asking yourself, what went well? What can I improve? What am I grateful for? Daily reflection turns ordinary days into lessons, mistakes into growth, and life into a journey of continuous improvement. As we wrap up today's journey into the power of observation, remember this: the world is full of wonders waiting to be noticed, lessons hidden in small details, and opportunities often disguised as ordinary moments. By training yourself to see more deeply, listen more carefully, and pay attention to the little things, you don't just enhance your memory or creativity, you transform the way you experience life itself. Observation is not just a skill, it's a way of living fully, appreciating each moment, and growing wiser with every passing day. If you start practicing the techniques we discussed today, mindful seeing, noticing small details, observing people, learning from mistakes, and reflecting daily, you will begin to notice subtle changes in your perspective. Life will feel richer, your relationships stronger, and your personal growth faster than you ever imagined. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss content that can inspire, motivate, and guide you to live your best life. Join our community of learners and thinkers who are dedicated to noticing the world like never before and turning every day into a step toward a better, more aware, and empowered version of themselves.